Mighty Mo or me, any good Christian. I've knocked out more people than Mighty Mo, so.
Yeah. But how long do you give it for the combinations to really feel, or how many repetitions do you recommend to get the combination really into your body?
I trained all my life. Listen, I had my first boxing gloves when I was 5 years old. My great-grandfather was a boxer. I have Samoan and German on both of my parents. My great-grandfather's a boxer, my grandfather's a boxer, my father, uncles, brothers, everybody boxed. And I started, so I had my first boxing gloves when I was 5. So I come up in that sort of, from boxing to martial arts to mixed martial arts. And as a fighter, since I started competing, I trained 6 days a week, twice a day. So I would spend anything from 4 to 6 hours a day training. Repetition makes it perfect, because when you're in there every day, 1, 2, 1, 2, uppercut, hook, right hand, knee, kick. So it's one of these things that's it's got to take time. And then I remember a guy, Mike, a good friend of mine, never in my wildest dreams think that he would become a fighter, because he was just kind of awkward. He didn't, when I say that, I mean like, he didn't have the some people are just born to fight. Some people are just born with talent. Some people are just born with rhythm. Unfortunately, that's just a fact. You know what I mean? And Mike wasn't the most talented guy in terms of martial arts. But I tell you what, the biggest heart of anybody that I know, and from having such a big heart, he just pushed through it. And when he competed, he was completely a different person. Like, you never would have thought that he would fight the way he did. He did, but because he was so determined to learn, he was so hungry to pick up everything, he was trying to be a sponge. And again, like I said, not everybody is meant to do what martial arts is. We're all meant to train, to learn self-defense, to learn how to protect yourself and what have you. But not all of us are meant to be in the cage or in the ring to fight. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. Just like not all of us are meant to be a lawyer, not all of us are meant to be doctors or whatever. You know what I mean? But it'll take some time. If you focus on it, believe me, it'll get better and better.
So it's normal to feel like two different people. Like one person when you're just walking around, and then another when you start competing or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I have a friend of mine, John Conway, and a few other friends of mine that just look like, well, actually I trained Evan Dunham, for example. Evan Dunham, when you look at Evan Dunham, he looks like just a white boy that can't do nothing. But if you get on his wrong side, he'll whip your ass. You know what I mean? Like, you never think that what he can do. And again, he's another perfect example. He's not the most talented guy, but he works hard. He's got a big heart. He wants it. He's determined. You know what I mean? So, when you look at him, he walks around just like a normal freaking nerd kind of thing, if you will. I know you'll probably be like, Coach, what are you saying? You know what I mean? But when you put him in the cage, he's like a wild animal, He's just meant to fight, So it's absolutely normal to feel two different kind of human beings, Like, okay, because I'm a big guy, I don't see myself as big. Everybody says I'm big. But naturally when I go out, people are like, he could pass or something. Could be a fighter or they'll look at you and go, even if he's not a fighter, he looks like he can handle himself. You know what I mean? Now, you look at Evan, no one would think, but because he's in UFC, you probably recognize him. But if you look at him, he's just hasty white guy. You make a mistake, he's going to put you out. You know what I mean? So it's normal to feel like that.
What's your take on, you say you train 6 days a week, for 4 to 6 hours. How do you feel about overtraining? You split your workouts,
100%.
You do the same thing every day?
Evan again is another guy. He's such a freaking determined, freak of nature in terms of his work ethic. Like, I have to slow him down. I do the same with Martin Kaplan. I do the same with Jay and Ron. It's just as bad to overtrain than it is to undertrain. It's just, I don't know how that works, but it's just as bad. And again, Evan's one of these guys that I really have to go, listen, no, you're done for the day. You know what I mean? Because he'll get work out today, now, and then 2 hours later he'll work out again, and another 3 hours later he'll work out again, and he'll come to the next practice tomorrow dead. But he'll still put in 150%. The problem with that is that come fight night, he's gonna be burnt out. And that's where it matters the most, because that's his job, that's where he competes at, that's his goal, that's where he wants to climb the ladder. So you can look the best you can throughout 9 weeks, but if you don't perform on that night, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Because that's where it matters the most. And again, it's all about training correctly, having somebody that can say, listen, you're overtraining, slow it down, take the day off. That's why having coaches is important. Unless you know yourself. I mean, you know, I've been very fortunate. I've always had a very level mind in the sense of I knew exactly how I would listen to my body, because I also knew that I would work hard. So, you know, so there are times where I would listen to my body and I'm like, you know, I just don't feel right today. So I take that day off, because you know what? I come back the next day and I'm fresh and I feel 100%.
You think the day is insufficient, you come in, you do a 4-hour workout, and by the next day, you could do the whole workout all over again, your body's rested.
Absolutely.
So you could go every day. You don't need to do, say, a lot of kicks for one day and then kind of take off, the next day do a lot of upper body and
right. You know, it varies, because when your fitness level is at a certain level, you know, you're always going to come back, and what happens is that your body needs that rest period to recover. You know, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're unfit. It just means that you're overworking. You know, so taking a day off, it's gonna will help. It's like if you study. I mean, we've all at one point or another studied. I hate studying, but it's something that we all have to do. You know, growing up. So by doing that, you know, there's a time where you just go, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna put this aside because I need a break. And it's the same with training. I guess it's the same in anything in life. You know, if you overdo something, you obviously need to, you know, take a break from it a little bit and go back to it. And you know that, you know, it's like when you think about certain things, you're trying to get answers and you don't come, you take a break, you come back, and suddenly your mind flows a lot better again, you know?
When you work out, how do you split up your workouts? You get 4 hours, 1 hour lifting, 1 hour aerobic?
Well, for example, like Mondays, I come in, I do hit the pads for 2 hours, probably shadow box for a little bit. Then I'll go home and come back at night. It'll be, either be wrestling and jiu-jitsu. Tuesday will be at 9 o'clock. I have strength and conditioning with Jake Bonacci. You know, I spend time with him, and then come back at night. It'll be sparring. Kickboxing and mixed martial arts sparring. Wednesday you repeat Monday, Thursday repeat Tuesday, Friday repeat Monday again. Well, when I say that, I mean it varies, but your training is pretty much along the same kind of thing. And this comes back to what your question was earlier about repetition. About how long does it take to understand, find your rhythm and get your form correct. Well, it's all repetition every day, So yeah, and you break it up like that.
You lift your whole body, or do you break it up?
I don't lift anymore. I mean I do, but I rarely, like when I lift with strength and conditioning, everything is all body strength. It's weights here and there. So yeah, it's a lot of explosive stuff. When I work with Jake, there's a lot of endurance stuff, a lot of explosiveness, because in the sport, especially if you compete, you gotta be fast.
What pushed you and motivated you to become a competitor? Just being an enthusiast and just an athlete, being an actual competitor.
You know what? I just kind of fell into it, and you guys were sitting. I kind of just fell into it. Like I said, I come from a family of fighters, and so when I had one of our guys was meant to fight this guy, and the doctor diagnosed my buddy at the time that he had asthma, and so he couldn't compete. And because I was already on television with modeling and a few other things, doing TV commercials and things like that, I never thought about fighting. Never ever thought about fighting. I thought, you know, at 16 I started modeling and doing TV commercials and doing a bit of acting here and there. But fighting never came to me until, but I was still training. Like I said, you know, I had my first boxing gloves when I was 5. So I was training right up to this point. I never thought about competing until this particular time. The guy, my buddy that was diagnosed, that was told that he couldn't fight, well, his opponent ended up challenging me. And the only reason why he did that was because I was a face already somewhat, you know what I mean? And yet he had, I want to say, I think he had 5 or 6 fights, and that was my first. Needless to say, I ended up stopping him in the 2nd round, and that was the beginning of me being a competitor, you know?
How late? Is there such a thing as starting too late? Because I mean, you look at some of these guys that are 21, they've been training since they were 6. And you even look at 5 years ago where it would be like Chuck Liddell. Everyone knew he was going to come into a certain style, and now you've got all these guys that are perfect at everything. Is there a point where it's just like it's too late to really go into it as a career?
If you're a guy that, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs, never have, never will. I go out and have a great time with my friends and that, but it's not something that I do every week, you know what I mean? So I've never abused my body in that sense. Here's the reason why I still compete at the highest level. Is that, sometimes it is too late, because some guys may train and they may go and party hard or whatever. And one day they wake up and, you know, I'm going to try this. And sometimes it might be too late, you know what I mean? So it depends on the individual, really. I mean, you look at Randy, for example. I think he had his first pro fight at 30. Or 30, yeah, exactly. So, and then, so, you know, and that's what I mean, like, it depends on how you look after yourself, you know, and it depends on the individual.
You may have first pro fight ready for, but he was already fighting in a sense.
Well, he was already, I mean, he's a wrestler, so he had, you know, the thing is, when you go back to fighting, as an example, mixed martial arts is a new sport, you know, when you compare to kickboxing. Kickboxing has been around for 500-600 years. Muay Thai, MMA has only been around for the last 20 years, if that, you know? So, like wrestlers, a lot of them wrestle because they didn't want to be punched in the face. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys went to jiu-jitsu because they didn't want to be punched in the face. When mixed martial arts came about, that was one of the strongest part of the MMA world, is being a wrestler, to be able to control the guy on the ground, to be able to take the guy down. Now you're adding punches and elbows and everything else. Suddenly, you know, wrestlers are like, man, this actually really works well. So, people like Randy, who, you know, back in the day, he had strong wrestling background, put punches and elbows together and things like that, and he was a beast because he already had the heart to do, you know, to compete, as we are seeing time and time again. But I think at that point in time, he didn't realize how strong wrestling is in the MMA world until MMA came in. And then, you know, all these wrestlers and jiu-jitsu. That's when MMA is going to grow even bigger, is because there's so many martial arts to feed from. Where, you know, kickboxing is kickboxing, boxing is boxing. Suddenly you got boxers who's going to come to MMA, kickboxers who's going to come to MMA, wrestlers who does MMA, jiu-jitsu guys, you know, local wrestling and all that kind of thing, you know, so there's a lot more talent pool, I think, in that sense.
Ray, the most difficult contender in your career, in your fighting, who?
They all were, because I treated everybody the same, and You have fights where I will go in there and think it'll be the easiest fight, turns out to be the hardest fight. The fights where I go in there and I'm like, okay, this will be a tough fight because I mentioned you know. So, you know, it varies, you know, you learn as you go. And like I said, you know, to me, they all were hard. They all were tough because if, you know, you had the guts to train for 9 weeks camp and jump in that cage or that ring, you deserve all the respect just like anybody else, you know? Say again? The best guy I fought? The top guys are probably the top 10 guys in K1. I fought every name or I fought the best of the best kickboxers in the world. And those guys are from all over the world. Jerome Banner is from France, Peter Ertz from Holland, Mr. Roos from Holland, Remy Brzezinski from Holland, Sam Greco from Australia, you know?
Krokop.
Krokop from Croatia, you know? Huh? Oh, I lost on decision.
This is recent.
Yeah. I took a fight. I was just saying earlier, you know, before we even started, that I was in Brazil for a camp, for Vitor Belfort's camp. I got called to fight. And they said that was going to be his final fight. And I had already committed myself to Vitor, Evan, I had Brad, and Martin fighting. So I had already committed myself to the guys, and so and then I was like, well, if this is Krokop that pulled out, and we were scheduled to fight each other before, and he pulled out. So I figured if this was his last fight, I'm never gonna have the opportunity to fight him again. Although I knew I wasn't 100% ready, I also didn't want to pass the opportunity to actually be in the ring with him. And so I was in Brazil for 2 weeks, came back to Vegas for a week, left for Chicago for a week, came back for a week, came back a week and a half, Sydney, Australia for a week and a half, came back for 12 hours, jumped back on the plane, flew to Croatia, fought 3 days later. So, you know, crazy schedule, but, you know, I made that decision to do that for a certain reason. But then after the fight, you know, he won on a decision. I thought it should have been an extra round, but it didn't matter to me because I was just happy to be in there. And then he goes and announces that he was going to fight again. I'm like, excuse my language. I'm like, the only reason why I took the fight was because he said I was going to be his final fight without a camp line. So, you know, I contacted, after his next fight after that, he fought in Spain, I contacted Simon Rotz from Holland. I said, I want to be Krokop's next fight, but I'm going to come ready. I'm going to have a camp this time. So I don't know if it's going to happen again. If it does, 100% will be ready. You know what I mean? But, you know, these are things that you make certain decisions and for certain things, and then it kind of backfires. I'm like, what? All right, you know, that's the game for you.